How's everybody's day going so far? Can I get some thumbs up, some waves, some smiles, some engagement? We're going to be talking about emotion today. I want to see some emotion from you guys. Hopefully, we got some notebooks, some pens. We're ready to rock and roll. I see my partner in crime has just joined,
Good.
and let's kick it off. So, for those of you that are new-ish, my name is David Roberts. I am partnered with my lovely wife, Miss Donnell Roberts. We're agency owners here in the Cook hierarchy and really excited to lead this production training today. Like I said, we're going to be talking about the emotion of the sale, how to kind of tap into what's maybe hiding behind the curtain a little bit and dig a little bit deeper with your clients. Donnell, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, definitely. Donnell Roberts, the other half of the Roberts Agency here, and just excited to hopefully bring some good value to you guys this morning. I would recommend that you definitely take notes. Feel free. I'm going to attempt to keep an eye on the chat if you're asking questions. Also, guys, this is your learning opportunity. So feel free to go ahead. And if you do have a question, just raise your hand. We'll call on you so that we can get those questions answered. The goal is for you to take something away from this. Now, what I would love to tell everybody is that your job today is not to completely revamp your entire appointments, right? It is to learn one or two things that you're going to start applying to your appointment so that you can get better. You can get better results. It's 1% better. So don't change everything. And as always, if you have any questions about, this is what I'm currently doing, should I be switching to this? That's when you're going to reach out to your mentor, reach out to your AO, your upline, and just ask some questions, right? We're here to guide, and we have this amazing team that we're all a part of, but make sure that you're getting coaching from your mentor as well, because we're going to bring some good value today, and hopefully you guys all are going to get something out of this.
Real quick, Donnell, before we jump into things, Amber put in the chat that you are AKA Renee, which I know she was being silly, but why don't you give a little context to what that actually means when people do hear you referred to as Renee?
So it actually starts from a joke way back when I started 3.5 years ago. So I used to do a lot of live dialing, and I will tell you that if you feel like you're not a strong dialer, the best way to become a really strong dialer is to live dial, right? It makes you more accountable. I tend to, ironically, trip over my own name a lot. When I say my name, when I'm introducing myself, I tend to fumble over it. And I noticed that while I was doing that on the phone, it was distracting and the client was focusing on that when that's obviously not important. So I just started going by my middle name. So as I was live dialing, it used to create some lovely confusion because I would be like, my name is Renee. I'm over in the blah, blah, blah. And so then people on our team started calling me Renee, and I was like, no, I don't. My name is Donnell. So if you ever see people joking around with me, also on our band app, I joke that all my clients call me Renee. But it just goes to show the flexibility that we have in this business, right? Like, let's not be so rigid. Let's make sure that the things that we're doing are working for us. And if they're not, there's usually a good solution. And let's brainstorm to make sure that we're getting those results. So thanks for the shout out, Amber.
Yes, and it ties right into the emotion of what we're doing because we need to bring a very human side to who we are and what this is. We're incredibly fortunate that we're a part of a culture that isn't a fake it till you make it culture. We get to genuinely be the people that we are and show up who and how we are. We don't need to hide behind a mask. We don't need to put on a suit and tie and pretend we're in a stuffy office. We get to be who we are, living our real, authentic lives. And that's incredibly beautiful. So let's rock, Donna.
Love it. So, being that we're talking about the emotion of the sale, we are going to start just by pointing out that if you're running a solid appointment, you should only be talking about 30% of the time, right? Quality questions, questions that are not a yes or no answer, are going to take some time for the client to answer. And it's going to really give us some insight to who they are. And so the conversation in our appointments should really be a 30-70% split. Some clients love to talk and you have to rein them in a little bit, right? But if you feel like you're talking a lot, you probably are. And the problem with that is that this is not a sales call. This is a problem solving call. We are trying to find out if this client has a problem and can we solve it? But we don't know that if we're doing all the talking.
Absolutely. And it starts in the dial. So you want to kind of walk us through how we bring humanality and bring emotion into the dial itself when we're first getting started?
Yeah, definitely. So, when you think about dialing, you want to remove your personality from dialing. You really do. And that sounds weird and it's hard to do at first, but you want to make sure that you're very even toned. You're not excited. You're almost monotonous, right? Because we're just simply from the doctor's office. We're calling back to set this appointment that you requested, right? So it's keeping it very level and even, especially if the client's getting excited. Like if they're getting angry, I'm always just a little more confused why they're being mean to me, and I bring that into my voice, right? Because we really do want to work with nice people, right? So if someone is being mean to you, you should definitely question that. But it's keeping that nice level pitch, but also picking moments where you can bring in your emotion. One of my favorite questions to ask when I'm dialing and talking to the client is, I'll confirm their mortgage amount and I'll ask them, how long have you been in this home? Is this a new move or did you guys refinance? Because keep in mind, that's how these leads are generated. They have recently gotten a loan and Symmetry started sending them information and they responded to that information. So asking that question is great because it's going to tell me either A, they refinanced and, oh, wow, so have you guys been in the home for a long time? Imagine the value of finding out that they've been in the home for 40 years, but they had to pull out a loan again on the home for whatever reason. Let's say it's new windows. You can talk about, oh man, that's not a fun way to spend money, is it? You can really bring some emotion of your personality in at that moment where you're more relatable of a person and not just this person on the phone that is unknown to them. Additionally, if they just bought the house, oh my gosh, congratulations. Have you moved in? How long have you been there? I'm sure your house is just covered in boxes. We just moved recently and it took me, I think like it's been almost 6 months. I just unpacked my last box. Whether or not you just moved recently, you can still say it. It's relatable. I'm sure everybody here has once moved in their lives, right? And so it just gives you that connection with the client, right? And that's really what we're looking for. And then dropping back to that level even pitch again, where we're just going right back to the script, you know? Um,
It's exactly right. It's glimmers of the human side and relatability, and then it's right back to the script in that monotone, direct way because we're just trying to get that appointment scheduled. We're not trying to make a best friend. We want to be memorable enough that they feel an accountability to keeping that appointment, but not so memorable that you're talking them to death and they think that you're going to keep them on an appointment for 2 hours. Because people that think that you're going to hijack them for 2 hours on an appointment, they're probably going to no show or they're going to reschedule until they have nothing else going on that day. So it's just glimmers of opportunity to show who you are as a real person. And another area when you are setting that appointment, and it also bleeds into when you're running that appointment, is when you're asking some of those health questions. If you're asking a health question and somebody tells you, yeah, I had a heart attack 2 years ago. Oh my gosh, that had to have been really scary. How are you feeling these days? Be a real human and relate to them in that moment. Don't know.
no, that's a great question, right? Like anytime we really get anything health wise, that's not just like very standard run of the mill, like a high blood pressure medicine. Be real for a minute, right? Like this isn't a box for checking off. They're sharing with you something that might be vulnerable. So just give them a second to, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. I really appreciate, you sharing that. That's just going to help me do my job for you guys better, right? And being candid in that appointment or being candid then for that appointment. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
And it rolls right into now we're running the appointment. We've scheduled it. We got a strong lockdown. Our appointment's coming up. We're hopefully on Zoom. For those of you that are running Zoom appointments, I'm a big proponent of Zoom appointments. I want to see you. I want you to see me. I want to use hand gestures. I want to lean in. I want to lean back. I want to use my tone and my facial expressions. That's not to say that phone appointments don't work. It's just not my personal preference. But let's talk a little bit about running that appointment. And at the start of it, how do you look? What's your posture? What's your presentation? How are you greeting that person? So one thing that I really am an advocate for is just being calm and relaxed. I don't have a cheesy smile on my face. When they come into my Zoom room, it's, hey, Bill, I'm David. I give them a smile. So glad we can get together for a little bit today. Excited to learn a little bit about your family. Immediately dropping the nugget about family. That's what we're talking about is family. Not talking about dollars and cents. We're talking about family. But why don't I have this big cheesy grin? And why am I not, oh, Bill, thank you so much for making the time to meet with me today. I'm never going to thank them for showing up. That lowers my status. I made time for them. It's not the other way around. We are the professional. We are helping them solve their problem. They are not doing us a favor. Yeah, it feels like it. Like, let's be real as agents here. When they show up, you're like, oh, thank God they showed up. But we're doing them the favor. And why don't I have this big cheesy grin? Hey, Bill. Because that gives the signal that this MF is going to try and sell me something. He's going to try and get over on me. And that's not what we're doing. It's very relaxed. It's very even. And it's just simply with a palm up. Hey, Bill. Because do you know what this palm symbolizes? The psychology of it, all the way back in our caveman brain. There's something about this palm up with fingers high that say friend, not foe. It just signals it in a way that I don't even comprehend. It doesn't make sense, but in our caveman brain, that's exactly what this means. Friend, not foe. Hey, Bill, I'm David. I'm going to point to myself. So glad we can connect for a little bit today, because I am glad we can connect. That's genuine. And we're going to start with just a very little bit of chit chat. I'm going to look for something in their background, something about them that I can quickly attach to. I'm not going to go deep with it, but I really just want to show that I'm a normal person. So it's, let me find somebody. I'm looking around the room. Damien. Damien, are you with me? I picked the wrong person. Hey, Robin. Robin Irwin. I see that bookshelf behind you. You must be a really avid reader. What are you reading these days?
Right now, I'm reading The One.
The One, as we all should be. But oh my gosh, Robin, I hear that is an incredible book. That's awesome. I'm a pretty avid reader myself. I try and read at least 2 books every single month. So that's cool.
I
Is that a big hobby of yours or?
I just started becoming a hobby being with Symmetry, so
Gotcha. Gotcha. Very cool. Well, we'll have to compare notes on books as we move down this road of life together.
thank you.
Yes. So I'm going to drop something of connection. And then personally, I'm going to pivot right into business because I don't want to waste their time. There's a lot of people, and there's nothing wrong with it if you're one of these people who will spend 5, 10 minutes building rapport, making conversation. If that works for you, ride that wave. I would never tell you not to do it. Myself personally, I want to build rapport throughout the conversation of the appointment. So I'm not going to front load a lot of chit chat. I'm going to get right down to business. And the way that I do that, I would encourage you to do something similar. And if you're running phone appointments, make a graphic that is similar to what I'm about to share with you and text it to that client. And I'm going to explain why. So here's what I'll do. Robin, so glad we can connect together, blah, blah, blah. I just like to start really quickly by sharing my screen. I just want to be able to show you my license. That way you know that I am the person that I say that I am with the credentials to help you. You'll also notice up there on the screen is a little picture of my family and I. This was last winter. We went ice skating. You could probably tell I'm not the most fluid on ice, so I spent a lot of time on the ground, but it was a fun day nonetheless. But, you know, I got 3 teenagers at home, and I just really like keeping family at the forefront because at the end of the day, that's exactly what we're talking about, protecting families. And here's a key question. So before I present that question, the reason that I showed my family is because, again, I'm relatable. I'm a human. I have people that I want to protect too. I'm not this stoic guy sitting in a suit and tie in a stuffy office. I'm in my house and I got 3 teenagers running around, literally 2 of them playing video games within arm's reach. I'm human too. But I make a little self-deprecating joke because I want to get them to smile. So yeah, I'm going to talk about how I can't ice skate and I fall on my butt all the time. But the reason that I use that trigger word of family, and family is a trigger word, is because the question that I'm now going to ask is, Amber, when I use that word family, who does that consist of for you? And you just sit back and you take notes because they will open up and they will tell you everything you need to know about their family. You'll find out, I hate my son-in-law. I love my grandkids. They bring their dogs over all the time. You're going to immediately find out who's the beneficiary, the contingent, the one after that, who spends the most time at the house. If you just listen and let them talk about their family, they're going to answer so many questions that you later don't have to ask and that you can circle back to. It's ammunition for you to continue the conversation. Donnell, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, actually, I was just going to jump in and say, when you ask this question and you do it well, the beauty is that it actually helps you determine, is this equity protection or is this, a full mortgage payoff? And it gives you the bullets in the gun for that conversation later, right? And so you can start dripping little things throughout your appointment, because if they're like, oh, family is, it's just me in the house. My daughter lives out of state. My son, he lives about 2 hours from me, but my daughter has grandkids and I love going to visit them. You now know it's straight equity protection, and you can use the daughter being out of state with kids later when you're talking about pivoting to equity protection and why that equity protection is so important, right? And so that's the quality of really understanding who the family is and who's important to them, is that now you already know most of the time which direction you're going, right? It's really going to help you. And especially if you get those young people that they might not have anyone, but you find out that they're in the house, they're single, but their brother just had a kid, and oh my God, that kid's my life right now. Guys, use the information that we have available to us because they're telling you what's important, right?
Exactly right. And what's our next question from there, Donnell? Where do we go from there?
So what I love to, after that family question, is we're going to go into our role and purpose. A great way to go into that role and purpose is saying, have you guys ever had mortgage protection before? Or have you ever known anyone that's had to use mortgage protection or life insurance? Have you ever had a personal experience with that? Right? We're starting to understand, are they familiar with the concept of what we're about to talk about? And do they have any personal history with it? So it's have you guys ever had mortgage protection before? Or have you guys ever known anyone that's had to use it or use life insurance because of something that happened?
And their answer doesn't change what you say from there. They could say, yes, I've had it on the past six homes, or no, I've never heard of it, or yes, my cousin wife passed away and their mortgage protection paid for the whole house, or regardless of their answer, you getting into your role and purpose is exactly the same because you're going to say, yeah, you know, it's changed a lot over the years. That way, it acknowledges what they're saying, but it also nullifies the experience or the knowledge that they may have on it. Because again, you're the professional talking to them about what's important today. Don't know.
One thing I want to jump in and say really quick is if you're like, man, is David reading from a script that sounds very fluid? It's because he's run so many appointments. But let me tell you, if you do not have the real script memorized, you're thinking instead of running your appointment. You're not being present there with the family. If you have the real script memorized and maybe not verbatim, but you've got it 90, 95% down, then you actually are no longer thinking about yourself. You're no longer thinking about what I'm saying next. You're just being present and listening to the family. And if they take you off on some tangent, you know where you left off. You can even write a little note, next to you. But when you're comfortable with that script, then it allows you to be truly present with that family and hear things that you might be missing otherwise because you're worried thinking about what you're going to say next. So
Exactly right. Go on. I'm sorry.
no, you're good. And if you notice, we're going to pretty much just walk through an appointment. We're going to walk through the real script with you guys and talk about places where you can really pull on that emotional string to create a stronger appointment. So the next place, if you know the real script, right, it's the role and purpose is let's get into a little bit of health, right? David, do you want to talk about that?
Sure. So we're going to qualify their health. We're going to ask them, what prescriptions are you taking? What diagnoses are you battling? And we are, it's a little awkward to say, we're never wanting to hear that they've had a medical problem in the past. But as soon as we do, we're jumping all over it. We are going to poke the bear. Again, if, Carol, if you're my client and you tell me, I had a stroke 3 years ago. Oh, oh my gosh, Carol, that's really scary. Have you had any occurrences? Carol, have you had any reoccurrences from that stroke?
No.
No. Oh my gosh. I'd have to imagine that when that happened, it didn't just affect you, it probably affected your family. Who cared for you during that time?
Most definitely, it was very scary. And, I had my daughters here to help me, but, I don't really want to put them under that burden either.
Yeah, yeah. Burdening family, it's so uncomfortable, and I'm sure that really weighed on how you felt, not just physically from the stroke itself, but just the whole mental side and trying to balance family and God forbid that was a reoccurrence. Are the kids, are they still close by? Are they able to come over and help if something happens?
Well, they have their lives, they help when they can, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so fortunate that you have really good family close by. Relationships are tricky, especially with kids when they have kids of their own.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's never good when something like that happens, and God willing, that's just in the past now. Thank you, Carol, for playing along. So, did you notice how we sat with that for a minute? We didn't just acknowledge it and, oh, what prescriptions do you take for that? Okay, how often do you go see your doctor? I want to put you back in that moment of this was not a good situation for myself or the people around me. What is the impact on not just you, but those who you rely on? Because that's what we're talking about when we are helping people with life insurance. mortgage protection, call it whatever you want. We're never going to see the benefit of what decisions we're making as the client. We're making these decisions to better someone else's situation. So bring that to the forefront.
And
Make that part of your conversation.
and don't hesitate, right? Like if it's a husband and wife and the husband had an issue, address the wife and ask, that had to have been really scary for you, right? Get both of them in on that emotional moment, right? Like we're talking to the person who's going to benefit from what we're putting in place. So make sure that they're both staying engaged in that conversation by doing that. One thing I want to address really quick is Bam had a question about we have to get all the information on the details and surgeries, et cetera. What I would say is that you have to get enough information to find out where they're going to qualify. Once you have that, you can stop digging. And what I mean by that is if you find out that, they're in current cancer treatment, don't be asking about their blood pressure and did they have any surgeries, because that's a guaranteed issue only product. We no longer need to know any of their medical history. You're going to sit with them in that moment and be like, I'm so glad that we're having this conversation. And the good news is that because I work with so many carriers, I know we're going to get you protected today, right? But I'm not going to then just go down the rabbit hole of everything else because I already know now where they're going to qualify. So we can let that go. And I would say that's true across the board. If you run into something that is the triggering moment of, this is a pretty strict health condition, I'm only going to be able to go one or two directions, you probably can stop qualifying for other health issues. You can ask some more general questions, but you don't need to keep digging in. Don't spend too much time in the weeds on that. And reach out to your mentor, your upline, asking some more questions about that. But sometimes we focus too heavy on that as well.
It's such a great point. Another question that I will often ask couples or individuals, especially if they're seniors and if they don't have a lot of health issues going on, which is beautiful. God willing, we're all in that situation when we're in our 60s, 70s, where we have nothing going on medically. I'll ask a question that is absolutely irrelevant to them getting protected, but it just ties into emotion. And I'll say, Kathy, I'm going to pick on you for a second. So, hi, Kathy. You can stay muted or unmute. It's totally cool. But Kathy, oh my gosh, you are so incredibly blessed with great health. One last question for you. When I ask about family history, and I'm only asking about mom and dad if you know the answer. And I always say that because so often they don't. So I'll say, mom and dad if you know the answer. Did either mom or dad have any cancers, heart conditions, or diabetes? And I'll let you
Yes.
answer. Tell me about that, Kathy.
Yes, both of my parents had diabetes and they both died of heart attacks.
Wow. Okay. So that is something that we need to be cautious of in the future because your health is fabulous today, but knowing that mom and dad kind of had those struggles later in life, that's something that we need to be cautious of. Thank you for sharing that with me, Kathy. So I'm not going to go deep on that because again, it's irrelevant to them getting protected, but it brings reality to life and letting them know that this is a possibility for you. You're in great health today. God willing, you stay there, but don't forget what can happen. Anyway, that's a little side quest during the appointment. Donnell.
So the next part of the script, of course, after we go through medical, is financial. Ironically, and put a 1 in the chat if you agree with this. I think it's easier to ask medical questions than financial questions, right? I think it's easier to sit in the discomfort of someone having health history because I can be compassionate about that, not just, that's an easy place for me to go. But finding out that they don't have anything in place, finding out that they're financially struggling, finding out that they could keep up with their mortgage for 1 month, or maybe even just asking those questions is really uncomfortable, right? Like I think asking the financial questions is really difficult, but we're doing a disservice to our client and to ourselves, because how do we know what the problem is if we don't understand their finances? How do we diagnose if we don't even understand what the current issue is?
I know that's such a great point because so often, especially as new agents, well, actually, especially as an agent, period, it doesn't matter if you're new or not. We think we have the answer to their problem when we don't even understand the problem. And what I mean by that is we're so quick to throw out a quote or to come up with a option that we think checks the boxes when we don't even understand what their financial situation truly is and what the impact of them doing something or not doing something will be. That would be like, Megan, you are going to see a doctor and you're sitting in your doctor's office and you're waiting on the doctor to walk in and you're just there for a checkup. You feel good. You're just there for a checkup and the doctor walks in the room. He looks at you. He says, "Hi, Megan. I'm Dr. David and you have type 2 diabetes and you have colon cancer." You, but Dr. David, you didn't even do an exam. You didn't run my blood. You didn't check a thing. You just looked at me and said, "I have colon cancer and diabetes." How could you know that? I don't. And that's what we do when we just throw a quote at someone without running a good financial analysis to understand what their situation is. And I'll be honest, I don't go super, super deep in that financial analysis. I'm not asking what they spend on Netflix and Hulu. I want to get a good general understanding of what is going to happen when something happens to you. And we have to be able to sit in the discomfort of whatever that situation is. And we have to lean into it. We can't bring light to their situation and glaze over it. Danielle, what do I mean by that?
Yeah, it just means really sitting in the discomfort with the client. They might not know the answer right away, and your job is not to alleviate that discomfort. Because the reality is that if you skip this step, they don't have an understanding of what their problem is. So when you give them quotes, you're just a salesperson. Until you as the agent might see where they need this and why they need this and what it's going to do for their family. Until the client understands why they need this, you're a salesperson. You're not a problem solver. Once the client understands, once you've walked them through the financials and they understand what this is going to do, let's go. You're right, David. Let's look at these numbers. Let's talk about, what we can make work. Is it 6 months? Is it 9 months? Are we doing a full mortgage payoff? They're ready to do this because they now see the problem.
And again, we're going to lean into that discomfort. Linda, if you're my client and we just ran your finances and we're sitting there with you and your spouse and we now understand that you have 2 months of savings where if something happens to Mr. Linda, you're going to be in scramble mode. I'm going to sit with that. Linda, how does that make you feel? How does that make you feel?
It's actually, it's not Linda, it's Mr. Linda, as David said. How does that make you feel if something were to happen to her that you would only have 2 months? Because keep in mind, Linda is not here. We're not putting this in place to protect Linda. We're asking the person that's going to be left
impacted. Thank you. Yes. So, Mr. Linda, how does that make you feel? Knowing that if something happened to Mrs. Linda, you'd only have, 2 months? That's 8 weeks. And I say that because 8 weeks is a whole lot scarier than 2 months. How would that make you feel if in 8 weeks you had to pack up the entire house and relocate while grieving the loss, how would that make you feel? I'm going to find 10 ways of asking that question until I get an answer that really taps into how they feel, because that's what moves the needle here. This entire process that we run, it is not a financial transaction by any means. It is an emotional transaction. If we solve their problem, what they spend per month is absolutely irrelevant. It does not matter if it is $40 or $4,000 if they are solving their problem.
It also stays on the books because they remember why they did it. You pulled on that emotional card. It wasn't a quick knee jerk. Yeah, that fits the budget. Let's do that, right? They will stay on the books. That's how you build lasting business. Let's actually go through some different scenarios of different client situations, because that's only one, right? Like, it's a married couple who you're going to put a little bit of protection. What if it's someone that is, single, it's equity protection. Their kids are going to, inherit the home. You hear all the time, well, I want to make sure the house gets paid off for the kids. Oh, would they be moving into your home?
No, they'd sell it.
Okay. So really what you're looking is to make sure that the equity that you've built in this home is passed on to your children. You want to make sure that, all this money that you have spent and this legacy that you're going to leave, that they're able to capture that. I guess my question is, if they're not going to move into the home, how long do you think it would take for them to get the house on the market? I know that when we talked earlier, you said that you've been in the home 20 years. I would imagine that's 20 years of memories that would probably not happen overnight. Would your children be able to pay your mortgage along with their mortgage, or would that create a financial burden for them?
Oh, I mean, they have a family of their own. It'd be really hard.
People aren't thinking through the logistics, guys. That's our job, right? They're not thinking that when they pass away that the bank wants the next month's payment. They're thinking, oh, I have a $400,000 house and I only have this $100,000 loan. My kids are going to be fine. Well, they are, but they're going to have to keep paying your mortgage until they sell the home. What if they live out of town? What if they can't quickly get here? What if you've got a basement full of stuff they have to go through? And then you're also asking them to carry the burden of paying your mortgage every month so that they can capture that equity that you're leaving for them. Let's ease that burden. I mean, they're probably going to have enough to deal with when something happens. It sounds like you're pretty important to them. I'm glad that we're having this conversation today.
An expression that I really like to use in that scenario is, we want to make sure that your family has time to breathe and time to grieve when something happens to you, because they need to do both. You don't want them in scramble mode. You don't want them fighting off collectors and the bank wanting to take the house back. We're painting a picture. Now, how do we do that when it's a young couple? Maybe they have young kids at home.
Yeah. So a couple things that I like to ask, like great questions to ask families is, let's say the husband's like, oh, well, my wife would be fine. She would downsize. They don't need this big house. So would they be able to stay in the same school district? If your family downsized, would your wife be able to find a home within the school district you're in now? I would ask the wife, I would imagine that this is going to be a pretty difficult time if, God forbid, this were ever to come to be, and they lost their dad. Would it be pretty impactful that they would also have to change schools? These are things that people are not thinking about. And this is where we sit in the emotion and we paint the picture of what they are or are not doing. And it's asking those really quality questions. What does that life look like? I love it when people already have life insurance. Oh, I've already got 200,000 through work, so she'd be fine. Okay. So is the 200,000 that you have for work, is that to pay off the mortgage, or is that for your wife to keep the standard of life that she has for the next 2 years? It can't do both. And it's only going to last about 2 years before she has to do something. Do you feel like that's long enough? Again, I'm asking the wife,
Ask
right?
the person who is impacted.
It's great that they already have life insurance. That's the best thing ever because it means that they already believe in it. Have you guys thought about if that's enough, right? How is
And
the policy going to be used that you currently have?
you hit on something so key because 9 out of 10 times they're going to tell us, oh, I have it through work, or I took out this policy when we first got married. That's great. It can't do both, is the key. It can't pay off this house that you just moved into 4 months ago and maintain your standard of living. It can only do one or the other. Which one is that intended for? Ask them that question.
And
Robert, you have $1 million of life insurance. Is that for the $800,000 house, or is that to keep the wheels on the bus at home for 3 years? Because it can't do both.
and
So
life is expensive. If they have a $300,000 policy, you've already gone through the finances a little bit, right? Like they might spend 150,000 a year to live. That policy will only keep them at the status quo that they are currently experiencing for 2 to 3 years before there's a financial strain. That's assuming nothing changes financially for that family, right? So it's not, oh God, they already have 300,000. I'm only going to add 300,000. It's, I'm so glad you have that. Let's get this mortgage taken care of so that money can really last you for a while.
Graham, you have a question?
I think actually Donnell just answered it, but basically I've very recently had pushback where people are like, oh, I'm already covered. And I go through that and they're like, this is enough to pay off the house and have extra for them to live on. So I think the answer was just what Donnell just said, which is, how long can you maintain that lifestyle? I have to figure out how to push that angle a bit more, but thank you guys.
So, Graham, I love that you went there because the way that you push that angle is so, Graham, if something happens to you, obviously Becky and the kids, they'll be okay for a couple of years, but Becky, you've been a stay-at-home mom for how old's your youngest? 12? You've been a stay-at-home mom for 12 years. Are you looking to go back to work full time? And man, Graham, you're making like what did we say? 125,000 a year. Becky, can you jump right back into a job that's going to pay you 125,000 a year on day one? What would that look like for you? Again, it's being in that discomfort, which is so wholly awkward for us because this is a total stranger. And we're asking them deep, affecting questions. But that is what we get paid to do. That is why we make such good money for what we do, because we solve big problems. We don't sell big policies. We solve big problems.
And additionally, if we don't sit in that discomfort, guys, like this isn't to trick the client, right? Like this isn't being smooth salesman. This is being authentic with them. And if we don't have this authentic conversation, if we don't give this moment the time that it deserves, where they're actually having this conversation and showing up, and then something were to happen, if we didn't point out that, if you don't do anything, your wife is going to have to sell the home and downsize and change schools. If we didn't say that in that moment and they don't get coverage, 3 years later, something happens, there's ownership that we didn't show up the right way for that appointment and for that client, right? So it is sitting in that discomfort because this might be the only time that they have that conversation. And that's why it's important that we do that.
And where do we go from there?
Yeah. So let's talk about the language of using emotion for if you're going to get a decline and how to pivot.
Who's ever had a decline? Yeah.
I had multiple declines in one appointment.
Yeah. I mean, like I average a lot of declines per sit, and I'm totally fine with that because I go into it with the mindset of I'm probably going to have to pivot when something happens and I get a decline. And I'm going to prep that person for it way back in my role and purpose. I'm letting them know that this is common. The insurance carrier, they're going to review things. Sometimes they answer us instantly. Sometimes they take 2 days. If for some reason they come back and say it's not a fit, easy, pivot to another one. There's like 40 of them. I'm setting the groundwork so that they know when it happens that they're not triggered by it and I'm not triggered by it. Dustin, if I'm filling out an application on you and it's Americo and halfway through that application, it pops up on my screen, automatic withdrawal. I don't freak out. I'm just like, huh, well, Dustin, it looks like there's something that just isn't jiving with Americo. No worries. We're just going to jump over to our next carrier. No biggie. Give me 2 seconds while I pull up that application. I don't freak out. It's easy. And if I pivot over to Mutual of Omaha and we're filling out that application, man, Dustin, it's must be one of those days, man. I feel like every application I fill out is got a bunch of questions on it for their home office. Oh well, we're just going to jump over to Foresters. No big deal.
Now, what I will say is let's put an asterisk on this, right?
Mhm.
First decline, it could be random. Like it could be something little. It could be something that, is triggering that's just Americo doesn't like or Banner doesn't like or whoever, right? The second one, start asking a lot of questions,
Thank you.
right? If it's stopping at a certain point, oh, that's weird. And think about like where the application's stopping, right? As you're pivoting, but make sure you're asking questions. I just want to double check. I'm going to get logged in. I know we mentioned that you've got diabetes, but no neuropathy, right? Like I'm just kind of asking general questions while I'm jumping into that next application, right? Because something is triggering the decline. And guys, it's not that buyers are liars. Most of the time, they just really don't know what the insurance carrier is looking for. And we don't have a full picture quite yet of what's going on that's causing it. So just start asking some questions. Hey, keep in mind, my job is I'm kind of the representative for you guys. I don't work for any of these companies, right? I want to find the company that's the best fit for you. Real quick, let's just go over the health again. Do you think I'm missing anything?
One
Right?
thing that lately, just kind of a side note, one thing lately that is often overlooked is clients that are taking GLP-1s. It will ding the same way that diabetes dings on so many applications. So they may not have diabetes, but a GLP-1 is used to treat diabetes. So that's going to ding the exact same way. So if that's happening, just ask, have you tried any of those like the weight loss shots? I don't call it a GLP-1 when I talk to them because I want to dumb myself down. I don't want to be offensive. Amber, have you tried any of those like weight loss shot things? I feel like everyone's taking them these days. Oh, okay. Awesome. You happy with the results? Perfect. How long have you been taking that? Okay. Thanks for sharing that with me. That might be what they keep seeing here. No biggie. It's a throwaway, but that's really important for us to know because it shows up as diabetes or relatable in that category. Sorry, go on, Donna.
Yeah, for anybody that's new and they're like, I don't know, right? Like, I don't know the underwriting details well enough. That is what your mentor is for. They never, ever, ever want you to be in an appointment and not know where to go and be like, let me call you back. Absolutely not. Never get off the phone with the client. You say, you know what? I really want to make sure that I'm finding the right fit and the best option for you guys. And so if you could just hold on for me 1 second, I'm going to double check my underwriting guideline. Hold on 1 second. Mute out, turn your camera off, call your upline. They might jump in, they might walk you through the process, but either way, it shows authentically that you're there for the family and that you're trying to find the right fit for them. right? Don't be afraid to do that. And you get to listen in because they start talking because they think that you're magically disappeared. And you can still hear them. So it will sometimes help you. But don't ever get off the phone if you're getting a decline. Don't ever stop. You've got someone that's saying, yes, I want to fill out an application. Yes, I want this coverage. Reach out to your upline and have them help you figure out what the right pivot is, to the point that they might jump in and be like, I was checking my underlying guideline and my lead underwriter actually offered just to jump in and make sure we can find the right fit for you. That is an incredible service that you are providing to that family, right? So don't hesitate to bring someone in to help out with that appointment.
Absolutely. Nothing makes you more of a hero than bringing your head underwriter into the call with you. That's like the top doctor bringing in the top doctor in the entire practice to help you. Oh my gosh, I'm about to get the best service from the best person. Heck yeah, bring that person in here. You're the hero.
So that's kind of some of the emotion pivoting around a decline. But let's talk about emotion around the think about it.
I almost like when I get to think about it, Donna.
No, you don't.
No, I don't. No, I don't. But I like bringing light to their situation once again, because I'm going to call it out exactly what that situation is. Because if I get to think about it, to me, that's a no. I have enough belief in myself that I've run a strong enough appointment that if I get to think about it, I'm speaking for myself personally, I can't speak for anyone else. If I get to think about it, I'm probably never going to speak to that person again. That's the confidence I have in my appointment. So if I get to think about it, if Jennifer, you're my client, and I just showed you options that check every box for you and your family. Jennifer Thompson, if you'll unmute for me, please.
Yeah.
Hi. Jennifer, do you have a significant other?
I do.
Awesome. What's their name?
Bobby.
Bobby. Perfect. So absolutely, Jennifer and Bobby, I understand you want to think about it. I want you to think about it. Just so you know, until we knock out this application and get an answer back from the provider, truthfully, there's nothing for you and Bobby to even think about, because we don't even know if what we talked about is a realistic answer for you. You want to go ahead and knock this out real quick?
Sure.
Say no. Say no.
No. No.
No. Okay, so just so I fully understand what it is that you and Bobby want to think about, it looks like we reviewed that, Jennifer, if something happens to you, Bobby can only afford to stay in the home for about a year. So Bobby, and I'm going to now direct my attention to Bobby. Bobby, how does that make you feel knowing that if something happened to Jennifer tonight, less than a year from now, 1 year from today, you're going to be living somewhere else in total and complete scramble mode, trying to figure things out? I'm poking the bear hard. Bobby, how does that make you feel? And Bobby's going to say, that scares me. I don't like that feeling. Yeah, Bobby. That is very scary. I know too many people that have been in that situation, and it's an ugly one. It's really scary. I can understand that you're scared. And I'm going to switch the conversation back to Jennifer. Jennifer, it sounds like Bobby would be very scared if something happened to you. What does it make you feel like, knowing that fear that Bobby has? And one of two things is going to happen in that moment. Jennifer is either going to come to the rescue of their spouse and internally say, I love this person and I don't want them in a scary situation, And Jennifer's going to be the hero and say, let's go ahead and see if we can get approved. Or, and this happens too, don't pretend it doesn't. Internally, Jennifer is going to say, I don't give a shit about Bobby. And in which case, that's not your client. It's not your client. Because even if they write the protection, it's going to get declined. Go on.
I love that you're spending a moment talking about this, right, guys? Because not every client is our client. We can run the most perfect, beautiful appointment. We can point out how easily we can solve their problem. We can be like, hey, for $20, I've got $1 million of coverage for you. And it covers even if you start sneezing. And you're still going to have people that are like, no. It's not your job to convince them to say yes. It's your job to have the quality conversation and to tie the emotions and them ask themselves, is this something I want? Right? We've got a few seconds left. Do you, so I don't know if anybody's heard of the NEPQ questions. I'm happy to read them out loud real quick, or I can post it in the chat. We can put it on school.
Why don't you drop it in the chat? And if anybody has any questions as we're kind of wrapping up, love to speak to anything that anybody has. If anybody does have questions, feel free to unmute and fire away. Anybody need any clarity? Yeah, Stephanie.
So I put it in the chat, but I know that peptides like GLP-3 are really big right now. So would that also trigger a decline?
I'm not, I got to be honest, I'm not as familiar with GLP-3s versus GLP-1s. I just know GLP-1s are super, super common. I don't know, I'll be very honest, I don't know the difference between the two.
I think it's like my I have a friend who's taking it.
Okay.
And it's almost like weight loss, like she's lost 40 pounds in 2 months, which is great for her.
Yeah.
But it's not, I think she said it's not FDA approved. So I just want to make sure, like if we're asking about, like you said earlier, hey, have you tried any of the weight loss, shots or anything? And they say, oh no, but I'm on peptides or GLP-3, if that would also trigger a decline.
So truthfully, the best thing that you can do is call a couple carriers and ask. Just do underwriting or ask your upline if they've experienced that. When we get into the weeds of specifics, I think it's best just to kind of call and ask.
Gotcha.
I love AMAM because they have an online chat. And so if AMAM approves it, I'm kind of always like, okay, we're probably good. If AMAM's like, absolutely not, then I'm like, ooh, I should do some more homework on this. So jump to AMAM live chat, then you're not spending any time on the phone either. And you can get a quick answer that way.
Perfect. Thank you.
Of course.
David, I think we have one more question in the chat. What to say when they bring up radio ads, advertising cheap or commercials? Advertising for cheap or commercials?
Yeah. I mean, I don't shy away from it. Yeah, there's a lot of different advertisements out there. I'm not sure what you saw. If you are 19 years old and never had a paper cut, yeah, probably going to be incredibly cheap. But most of the families that I help have a couple things going on, and that means that we need to go with the carrier that's going to give them the most protection at the lowest cost possible. And I'm always going to use that hand gesture. The most protection at the lowest cost possible.
It's also
when just keep it rocking.
It's also when we poke the bear about health issues. Yeah. So I'm actually really glad that we're having this conversation today. I work with all the 40 carriers in your state that offer this coverage. And I know we mentioned that you've got diabetes and that you're on an inhaler. So because I've been doing this long enough, I know that means there's some companies that they won't even consider coverage for you, but I know plenty that will. My job is to help you guys navigate and find out who's going to be the best fit, right? Like poke the bear, whatever the health issue, if they have anything, then let's talk about that, right? And the good news is that I know a carrier who's going to get you guys approved, and they don't care about X, Y, Z that you've got. So.
Yeah. And we are up against time, so we're going to go ahead and put a bow on this. Hopefully there were some pieces of impact for you. If there's anything that you take away and you use in your appointment, let us know on School or Band or whatever platform that your team is using. But really excited for all of you to dive into the emotion of your appointments. Hope everyone has a fabulous day. Take care.